for joining us tonight. It is Thursday night. Thursday night. So we have another important topic, another topic for you all to enjoy, and it is how would you know if your priorities are wrong and how to fix it. I guess that goes beyond relationships. It's just individuals. You can also take it that way as well because individuals make decisions and schedule priorities
Mhm.
as well, but also in your relationship. What do you prioritize? That's mainly what we're talking about tonight. So let's go ahead and dive right on in.
Yeah, started, of course, from a great question. We've kind of talked about relationship priorities, I think, before, but it actually posed a little different question. What if you think yours is wrong? What does that even mean? And if it is, how do you fix it, right? So, this was a quick question. We're going to dive right in, like my husband's saying, because we're running a little late tonight. Uh-oh. But it started with the subject relationship priorities. I have been discussing this. I've been having, sorry, hold on. My screen is weird. Switch that around so I can see a little better. Okay. I have been having this discussion with a few of my coworkers about what we think are some must have priorities in a relationship. We are all single. I really look for good sexual chemistry more than a lot of other things. The others say things more like commitment and financial stability. Is it wrong to prioritize sexual chemistry? What are some top priorities within your relationship? Very simple question. Like I said, we kind of dug a little bit deeper into this, but in particular, well, we dug a little bit into this before, but this actually allows us to dig a little deeper because it's asking something like, is it wrong to prioritize sexual chemistry? Eh, ultimately, in my opinion, whether or not you prioritize sexual chemistry is really that personal decision, like you were saying, because it really is the person that is, deciding what they value the most. And then you look to bring that into your relationship. So there's really no right or wrong answer for that per se. But there are certainly a few signs that your priorities are probably not right for a certain relationship, and I think that's kind of one thing we can dig into tonight. But before we get into that, I think, like you were saying, it's important to kind of look at you as a person first and what you are choosing to prioritize and why, right? So, what are the reasons why you are making this a priority?
Yeah, so you have to be honest with yourself. So you
Yeah.
can be honest with your potential spouse about your needs and your expectations. So, in
Yeah.
particular, a person may prioritize sexual chemistry because they have a high sex drive
Yeah.
and they need a spouse who can keep up with them.
We've been talking a lot about sex lately, but that's a very true, thing. Some
Hmm.
people do have a higher sex drive, so that is a big priority. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it won't be the top priority.
Right.
Of course, there's a lot of trust, loyalty. You need those things first.
Yeah.
I would say, but let's move on. So maybe they place a high value on physical intimacy because it helps them to become to get a deeper connection.
Yeah, people that associate sex and love,
Hmm.
or use it because, excuse me, having that sexual intimacy certainly will deepen the bond, but it's important not to blur that line too much to where you're thinking that sex equates love, because it doesn't. It is one great facilitator of deepening a connection, but it's not, the same. It's not really the same on the deep level of what love really encompasses.
Yeah, or maybe they have experienced sexual trauma in the past, and they need a spouse who can be patient and understanding with them. So
Yeah.
whatever the reason, make something if you make something a relationship priority, it means you value it the most.
Yeah.
So it should also mean that you will be willing to put time and effort into maintaining.
Yeah. Yep. If you, we can kind of close this question really quick. I wonder if it looks weird. I don't know why I was looking at weird on our screen. But, anyways, we can dig a little bit deeper into this to particularly about relationship priorities, and kind of like you were saying about trust and value other things that are important within the relationship, because it is certainly going to be more than just, sexual chemistry. You may put that as a top thing, but hey, some relationship priorities are really more important, and they, will vary, of course, based on person to person. But some common examples would be like communication. That is a huge one of my top ones when I think about a relationship priority, because that is essential for any healthy relationship in general. So you have to be able to talk about your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, your dreams, your hopes, all of that, the good and the bad. You need to be able to communicate that in a healthy way with your spouse. That to me is a top priority in order for you to sustain for a long time.
Yep, and feeling connected to your spouse is another important priority.
Yeah.
So this means feeling supported, loved, and understood by them.
Yeah.
So trust is the foundation of any relationship. Like I was saying before, it is important to be able to trust your spouse, to be honest with them, and for them to be honest with you, to be there for you, and to have your best interests at heart.
Right. So that's certainly a big priority. Trust. I think that would be one of my big ones too. And I think connection, you had mentioned connection, but I think that is also just developed over time. So that per se doesn't have to be a big priority, but some people really do care about that, especially if it's like, first dates, how you really feel. If you didn't hit it off right away, that might scare some people off, and they'd be like, I'm not too interested. But that those are people that may really value that. But for those who don't, they'll be willing to stick around and see, and like, hey.
It opens communication, makes it communication easy.
Oh yeah, certainly, that's for sure.
Respect. Men value a lot of respect. Respect is, and I mean, everyone does.
Yeah.
Respect is essentially for any healthy relationship. It means treating your spouse with kindness, consideration, and dignity,
Yeah,
and
all
integrity,
times.
and ethics, and
Yeah,
morals
at all times,
at all times. Yep.
especially when you're upset. I think that's the most important thing. People always think about, oh, do you respect me when it's good? Sure, but what's most important is, do they respect you when things go bad? Because that's really, I honestly believe, where the make or break of a relationship comes in. It doesn't really matter so much how great you treat each other, but how bad do y'all get? How bad do y'all treat each other? That can really determine some things. But
Yep.
of course, when love, I think about love as being a good top priority, important priority in any relationship. So that's just really that deep affection, that genuine caring for someone, having their, best interests at heart, that love that you really feel, that I think is an important thing to have, especially when you're talking about a long-term marriage, somebody you're going to be with forever.
Yeah. And then intimacy.
Yeah.
So intimacy can be physical, emotional, or both.
Right.
It is important to have a close and connected relationship with your spouse. So it helps you to take your relationship to the next level.
Yeah.
Also, too, it is helpful to prioritize some of the same values as your spouse.
Right.
So this will give you a common foundation to build your relationship on. So communicate about your values.
Yeah. And we'll talk about how to do this specifically later, get into this for single people, dig a little more into how you can set your priorities when you're single, even for a relationship. And then certainly for our couples out there, how you all can constantly make sure that you're checking in up on those priorities and making sure that they stay aligned, because they can change over time. Especially when you're talking about similar goals and interests, and having that as a priority as well. I think that's a big thing, especially when you're wanting to build with someone, right? So this is someone you want to have similar goals to, because this will also be nice to have some things to talk about, some things to accomplish together and celebrate together. So it's always certainly something to prioritize.
Yep. And fun and enjoyment. It is important to have fun and enjoy spending time with your spouse. So this will help to keep your relationship fresh and exciting.
Yeah, some people prioritize that. They
Mhm.
want to have a lot of fun. Another thing, I don't know if we have up here, commitment was another one people prioritize. Some people don't though, right? Those who aren't 100% sold on monogamy. Some people don't prioritize that, but commitment is a big one for, I think, a lot of people, especially when you're talking about a serious relationship. Commitment is huge, in my opinion, and actually knowing that your spouse is committed to you, right? So no games, not, you know what you're going in for, you know what your purpose, your plans, all of that is. That certainly helps you feel safe and secure in the relationship. So I think commitment is a good one to prioritize as well.
Yeah, I think of that as being loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
as being loyal.
Yeah.
Um, it is important to note that relationship priorities can change over time, of course. As
Yeah.
we grow and change as individuals, our priorities may also change. So, for example, some people who was once focused on their careers may become more interested in family or personal relationships as they get older,
Yep.
or retirement. Of course, you focus more on retirement as you get older and older, realizing that you don't have a lot saved
Right.
up. So,
Yeah.
those are priorities as well.
Yeah. That can change. Yep. For
Yeah.
sure.
Major life events, so
Yeah.
such as marriage, childbirth, or either job loss or either a promotion, can
Mm-hmm.
also cause our priorities to shift.
Yeah.
So, for example, a couple who has a child may find that they need to prioritize their parenting responsibilities over other things in their lives.
Yeah. New
Or,
babies.
or a couple who is struggling financially may find that they need to focus on their finances more than they used to.
Right.
So as a relationship progresses, it is naturally for the dynamics to change. So, for example, a couple who is newly dating may focus on getting to know each other and spending time together. However, as the relationship deepens, they may begin to prioritize other things such as moving in together,
Mm-hmm.
building a life together, and starting a family.
Yeah. I think it's important that you really just communicate during this whole time. So that's really some big signs here in particular where you will see if, your priorities are not wrong for you, but maybe not right for your relationship or the relationship that you're in or the potential spouse that you're dating, because this is kind of where you got to sit back and plan, right? With your spouse. You want to talk about things. You want to figure out where you're going. You want to know that you're on the same page. So, because of that, you really have to take that time to reflect, to process, to assess whether or not what you are prioritizing is always going to be that way, is what really needs to be prioritized in that moment. I think about like when you said major life events, like maybe a health issue may come up within your relationship, and then you can't prioritize something like sexual chemistry as much like you once did, because just because your spouse fell ill doesn't mean that you just stop engaging in the relationship because that sexual chemistry can't be on the forefront. So it's just something to really take in consideration and think about. Even when you're single, this can really be beneficial to sit back and figure out, hey, what are my priorities and what am I really looking for when it comes to like a spouse? Because that's a clear sign whether or not your relationship is really gonna, sustain and be fulfilling for both of you. You really want to be able to come to that compromise where you're both fulfilled. Like you were saying, being able to prioritize, if you're wanting to prioritize your career and build a career, but your other spouse is trying to prioritize family, that's certainly going to cause you to clash on not only where you're spending your money, but where you're spending your time and your energy as well. So that's a big one that you have to really just take in, and actually a very common one that we hear a lot about. So that's just certain one thing to really think about.
Yep. And so your relationship priorities should also be aligned with your core values.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you value honesty and integrity, but your spouse prioritizes excitement and novelty, you may find that your relationship is not fulfilling. So, if
Yeah.
your priorities are not making you unhappy, if your relationship priorities are making you unhappy, it is a sign that something is wrong. So, for example, if you are sacrificing your own needs and well being to meet your spouse's needs, you may feel resentful and unfulfilled.
Yeah, that's big.
So because your priorities may change over time, it is important to review your priorities regularly and to make sure that you and your spouse are on the same page.
Right. So we can go over some simple tips first, how you can do this as a couple, because that's going to involve, regularly reviewing your priorities. And then also as a single person and you're dating, trying to make sure that your priorities are not so much, right or wrong, but more so aligned with the results that you're looking to have for a lifetime. And that's important to think about because you don't want to make something a priority that's not always really important, or something that you're really going to prioritize 30 years from now or something. So, of course, scheduling those regular check-ins, I think that is a big one. We always talk about that. We call them a bunch of different things, whether that's taking a relationship temperature check or just checking in emotionally with each other. You just have to set that time aside each week, to be honest, or maybe even each month, depending on, what stage you are in your relationship. If you're fresh dating or if you're long time married, you never know. But it's important to sit down to either have a formal conversation. You can go over dinner, dress up, look nice, or something more casual, like, like a walk in the park or a cup of coffee, anything like that. But just offering that opportunity to give each other your undivided attention and sit down and ask yourself some real serious questions. Well, not just yourself, but your spouse as well. Some real serious questions, open-ended questions that should hopefully spark up some conversation and really figure out, hey, are we on track? Is everything good? Are we prioritizing things together and making sure that we're hitting our goals together? So, one of the first questions that I always think about is, what is most important to you in our relationship right now? So these are questions, again, for couples to ask your spouse. What is important to you in our relationship right now? What are your individual needs and expectations right now in this moment? And minding you, it's going to change. So don't just think, oh, you don't really have to, I already know what my spouse is prioritizing, or, oh, I already know, like, what my spouse needs. You never know. It can change every day. Never neglect your spouse just because you think you know them. You don't have to be a mind reader in a relationship. It's not, what it's all about. You just really want to sit back and listen and say, how are we doing? How are we meeting each other's needs? How are we meeting each other's expectations? What are our shared goals for the future? Are we even aligned for that?
Yep, and be honest and vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it is important to be honest with your spouse about your thoughts and feelings. So don't be afraid to share your concerns or ask for what you need. Ask each other, how are we doing at balancing our individual needs and the needs of the relationship? What are our biggest challenges right now?
Yeah, that's going to require a huge level of vulnerability. Don't hold in things. Don't try to, push things down because you may already know why your spouse isn't doing these things. That doesn't matter. It's not a time to, bash each other or blame each other. I certainly don't recommend doing this in a time where you're already upset with each other or angry or in the midst of an argument or anything like that. This should really be done when everything feels good, right? And you're not really anticipating too many problems. But if there is something, you're okay sitting down and looking at it objectively and not having so much of your emotions or feelings into it.
Yep. So listen to each other with an open mind. It is important to listen to your spouse's perspective with an open mind. So try to see things from their point of view and to understand their needs. Ask, how can we support each other better?
Yes. These are big questions. You never know the answers you're going to get. And again, don't hesitate to respond. If your spouse is coming to you asking these questions, don't be intimidated. They're offering you an opportunity to speak up. And then don't be like, well, I should have said something when I didn't, and then be upset at your spouse because they're not doing something you want them to do. When your spouse comes to you and offers you the opportunity to talk about it, speak up. It's okay. Even if you feel like maybe they might be upset about it. You got to be all right with communicating your good feelings and your bad feelings for sure.
Yep. So be willing to compromise
Mhm.
always. So it is unlikely that you and your spouse will have exactly the same priorities. Be willing to meet each other halfway to find solutions that work for both of you.
Yeah.
So also ask, what are we grateful for in our relationship as
Yeah.
well?
I love to reflect on appreciation and being grateful. That is a big thing within our household. I think it should be a huge thing within all households. That's how you increase your blessings. That's how you increase your awareness of your blessings. And it allows more receptivity for more blessings to come. So certainly find your way to being grateful. Hold that positive thought in your mind about your spouse. Be expressing this on a daily basis. I think every day you should tell your spouse thank you for something, whatever it is, anything. And if you haven't built that habit in doing that, please do that. That is one way that your spouse will feel appreciated and know that, hey, I'm in this life with somebody who sees me, not just living with me, not just, sleeping next to me, but they actually see me and they appreciate me. That's going to go a long way in your relationship. So make sure to do that. When you regularly review your relationship priorities, it really helps you and your spouse to be on the same page. You operate more as a team, and you can really focus on building a strong and fulfilling relationship for both of you, like we mentioned. So, anyways, I think we can go into the single and dating. I don't think we've hit on that yet, but I was trying to make sure that we answered both of those questions too. We did the sexual chemistry and what are our top priorities. We kind of went through them. So I think in particular for this, I don't even know, this is a man or a woman. Kind of hard to tell. Maybe a woman. I don't know.
I mean, they didn't say.
Yeah, so. It's kind of hard to. But either way, it'd be nice to go through for a single person in general, how you can look at, your own priorities for your relationship and really see, where you can shift in, or maybe where you don't need to do anything. One great way of doing this is to reflect on your past relationships. We always talk about using that as an opportunity to learn, as an opportunity to grow. So ask yourself what went well, what didn't go well, what did you learn about, any yourself from these experiences? What did you learn about your spouse from these experiences, or your ex-spouse from these experiences? That helps you peek inside what maybe other men may want or other women may want, So it's always nice to look at that.
Yeah, and then think about your core values and goals. So what is important to you in life? What do you want to achieve? What kind of spouse do you want to be? What kind of spouse do I want to have?
Yeah.
And also too, I mean, what kind of spouse do you need to be instead of want to be, rather?
Yeah. It certainly gives you something to aspire to be. But yeah, certainly if you want somebody who's loyal and you ain't the best at being loyal yourself, then you got some things to work on. So it's always nice to be objective and aware of what's going on.
Yep. So make a list of your relationship priorities. What are the most important things to you in a relationship, and what are your needs and expectations? Also, your boundaries. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are your deal breakers, and what are also things that may be non-negotiable?
Mm-hmm.
So, what am I willing to compromise on? What I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, those boundaries, like
Right.
you're talking about, those non-negotiables, that's a big one. I think those may for sure be your top priorities, because those are the things that you're not willing to change. And that's okay to have those things, but you also got to make sure that they're realistic, and you got to be honest with yourself about that. Like, is this something that it really deserves to be a non-negotiable? Is it, maybe ask around. Like, I like that this person is conversing with their coworkers about it, because it's always nice to hear, other people's feedback, because then it can help you to maybe take in another perspective of what's coming out of your mouth, and try to really see, how is this really going to play out based off of, what people are hearing, and kind of what they are thinking or what they have experienced. So you always got to ask yourself, what are my biggest fears in a relationship or about relationships? I think that's huge for analyzing, why do I prioritize certain things? Maybe what caused me to prioritize these things? It's always great if you can do this with the therapist or a third party to really help you, again, dissect what comes out of your mouth, because sometimes you don't necessarily process things as well if you don't, have a third party to really kind of be that sounding board. So it's It's always really nice. And then also look at, what are your biggest hopes for a relationship? What do you really ideally want in a relationship? And I like to think about, how do you want to feel, right? In this moment, in that relationship, what do you want it to feel like? Do you want it to be this comfortable, safe, secure, loving, happy environment? Or, what have you experienced before that you may slightly be anticipating, right? You always got to pay attention to that too. So it's always good to think about that.
Yep, and be open to change. So your priorities may change over time. So, like I said before, be willing to review them regularly. And once you have a good understanding of your relationship priorities, you'll be good. You'll be able to look for your spouses to who shares your values and your goals. So you can also be more intentional about the relationships that you pursue.
Yeah,
So,
that's huge.
mhm,
Clarification, right? It
yeah,
gives you, for sure, this is what you know. Journal. We always say journaling allows you to bring it from your mind into the physical realm. So that's always nice if you can journal about these things.
yeah. And then,
Yeah.
like you said before, make sure that they're realistic,
Mm-hmm.
your expectations and your goals. So
Yep.
you want to be
Oh,
upfront.
what is? I'm sorry. I was checking out the comments. That's silly. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So be upfront about your priorities. So don't be afraid to talk to potential spouses about what it is important to you in a relationship, and also, for what's important to them. So this will help you to weed out people. That means discernment, who are not a good match for you.
Yeah, I hope you. So it really helps you see, like, that's not really, it's not so much your priority that's right or wrong, but if the relationship or the other person that you're looking to be with is, right or wrong for that priority that you have,
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess.
right. If they're right or wrong for you, that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Oops, I done hit that thing. It's so funny.
Yep. So,
I think that's all for the most part. Of course, I would say, you don't have to, settle once you, in the sense of, don't, once you have a priority, right? And you know that this is something that you really value, you really care about, and it's a non-negotiable. That's something that you don't waver on, right? And I kind of don't like to use the term like don't settle, because you do want to settle down, right? That term has been so misconstrued and taken way left field, but you do want to settle down. You do want to have that structured, that loving, safe environment that you are in a relationship, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be with someone who will meet you where you really need to be met at, right? Those key things, those non-negotiables, like respect, right? That's a big non-negotiable, in my opinion. You don't try to let that go. Those are some things that you really just have to be okay with. If that person is not meeting that, be okay with walking away from them and saying, hey, this probably isn't going to work out. It's not, some people aren't meant to be there, for your marriage, right? To be the person that you go and marry, but some people are just so that you can fine tune and figure out, hey, this is what I don't want in a spouse. This is what I do want in a spouse. And that's okay too.
by all means, be open minded though.
Yeah.
Be open minded and receptive to possibilities
Hmm.
that are out there as far as people. So don't be too restrictive in what your priorities are when it comes to meeting other people.
Yeah.
Also, be patient. So it may take some time to find the right person for you. So don't get discouraged. If you don't
Ooh,
find someone
excuse
right
me.
away, focus on being your best and enjoy life.
Yeah.
So be the best that you are. You have goals as well as far as your career and your retirement, savings,
Yeah.
or what have you. So make sure you stick to those, and make sure that you are receptive. Like I said, like I said before, to someone who may um, be, welcome these a new person into your life.
Yeah.
So be receptive.
I'm sorry, we had a request to join, I see, on Instagram. We started so late, so we kind of just wanted to dig into the topic. We're not looking at the request, but if you let me see. If you want to join still, we will accept it for sure. If the person is still up here. Hold on. Hold on, let me see. What does it say? Stop sharing. Oh, that's the other thing.
Yeah, you were sharing your screen.
The other one.
Yep. So this is a live call-in show. So once in a while, we do get people to call in, ask questions. We encourage that, especially if you have different topics.
Yeah. Yep.
We do accept that as well. But if you want to leave an anonymous topic, you can do that as well at www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question.
Yeah.
And we will be sure to review it and hopefully answer your topic or your question in another show.
Yeah. But let me see. The live isn't going through for the moment, so maybe we answer the question or not ready anymore. That's okay. We're always still available. Of course, we tomorrow we'll try this again. Of course, tomorrow you can try again if this person is not up here anymore. But hopefully, maybe we answered the question throughout this because kind of dug into it a lot tonight. I think priorities is a great thing. We've talked about them before. So I always like when a question allows us to, again, dig a little deeper in a different angle,
Right. Yeah.
It's always nice.
So with that being said, do anybody else have any questions or would like to join us? Anybody? I guess not tonight. Yep. So with that being said, Blueprint family, thank you all for joining us tonight. And then we will meet you all again tomorrow, same place for Marriage Fit Friday.
Yeah.
We give more of we focus in on marriage and relationship more so on Friday.
Being fit for that,
right.
In particular, staying in shape. So this is always helpful for our single people, our married people. Gotta always stay in shape, right?
Yeah. So with that being said, you all have a wonderful night. Peace.
I like that music.